Welcome to Burn It All Down, the feminist sports podcast you need. I'm Amira Rose Davis, and I'm joined today by
Brenda Elsie.
And we are here to be your Monday morning quarterbacks and talk all things Super Bowl 60. And by all things, I really just mean Benito. Well, this is the Monday after the Super Bowl between the Seahawks and the Patriots. Thank you for everybody who reached out very concerned how I was taking the Patriots' loss. But guess what? I'm actually fine because we won 4 games last year. Did not expect to be in the Super Bowl at all. Never thought they were going to win. And I really stopped caring about football. So it was probably the most peaceful Super Bowl I've ever personally had when the Patriots were playing. So that's really about all I'm going to talk about the game because there wasn't much of a game. It was a defensive battle until it wasn't. And so, yeah, I think one of the things in the discourse is really around the halftime show has in many ways before the game, during the game, and after the game eclipsed the actual football itself. And so I think that there are a few iterations of that discussion, of course. A lot of it has centered on the culture war that the Super Bowl became. Of course, we know that there was an alternate Super Bowl show, which sounds terrible. And, you know, officials are tweeting rage-fueled tweets that are just hateful and stupid and terrible. And we don't want to spend a lot of time on that. I think probably the one fruitful discussion that I actually do think is worth having, but I don't want to have right now, is about the kind of use of musicians and Super Bowl stuff to kind of bring viewers back into the project of the NFL at a time where there was a lot of boycotting going on, of course, after Kaepernick was blackballed by the league. And I think that around the Super Bowl, those conversations come back up. Like, should we be watching? Should we be engaging? Is this, cover for all the kind of, is it like a varnish to the terrible things that keep happening around the Super Bowl? And I think that's a really worthy conversation and probably correct. But also, I do think you don't have to look very hard to see that there's still a lot of currency in the symbol and meaning and just emotions that people feel by enjoying something. And we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So that being said, I do want to talk about the halftime show. I saw a hilarious headline right after the show. I can't remember what newspaper or website posted it, but it was like, Bad Bunny largely stays away from politics and delivers a joyful show. And I was like, tell me you know nothing without telling me you know nothing. So I think what me and Brenda want to do, Brenda, I just want to start asking you, for folks who don't know, why is that statement so laughable to you?
I think maybe one disconnect is about the language issue. And thinking that Spanish is not, that performing in Spanish in general is already politicized, not only from a really broad national level, but I can tell you that peters down into like your daily grocery store interactions where you feel hostility when you speak Spanish. In many public spaces in this country. So the idea, and Bad Bunny had a tough choice, right? He was offered this platform. He's super conscious of his role in history, as he shows you again and again and again, and he knows what he means to people. And to turn it down, to let who do it? Carrie Underwood, please, Lord. Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen anyway. And it's going to happen anyway. And the question is, who's going to occupy that space? And so it's ridiculous on all the levels. You can see the right wing losing their mind. And that in itself tells you they've politicized it more than he's politicized it. He has his identity. They've politicized being Puerto Rican in this way since, the 19th century. So it's a ridiculous statement, and also it's ridiculous because he didn't turn away whatsoever. And I'm sorry, but like, amazing A+ history student, let's talk about all the pieces. First of all, making it into a sugarcane plantation
from the jump, just getting it from the jump.
The setting, sugar plantation to the streets of the Bronx to a market and domino table in San Juan and a nail salon.
Right.
The setting in itself is like, this is the basis. These are the workers. These are the workers that make up the system in which we produce the players that you're seeing, and certainly
Absolutely.
the fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the set alone from the very
Mm-hmm.
first image of it immediately brought you there. We're talking sugarcane plantations, we're talking labor. I love that the taco stands were local, um, like West Coast taco stands.
Oh,
I think
were
from
they? That's great. I didn't even know that. That's
yeah,
amazing.
which I really liked. But exactly, you get the nail salon, you get the construction worker, you get the piagra guy, like you get all of the texture of so many communities. Um, and you get the Hibaro hats, you get like this invocation of not of labor past and present, right? Of connecting that. And you move through that space. And then, right, you like you said, transition into casita, and which was a staple in his residency in Puerto Rico. And if you remember, I think before we talked about how historic that was, about saying, I'm not doing this tour of the United States. Like, I've been there, I've done that, but I'm going to stay in Puerto Rico, have people come here, have this be like rooted in the place that this whole album was a love letter to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually what I want to talk to you about. The balance between this, to me, was like both very specifically a love letter to Puerto Rico in many ways, and also this really celebration of larger kind of diasporic pan-Latin Americanism. Like, what are you seeing when we're thinking about the interplay between those two things?
Well, I immediately like went to Blue Sky, which I will just say is getting better and better as a sports platform. Uh, and Skeeted, or whatever you call it, that, this is the new Pan-Americanism. This is, he's trying to make Pan-Americanism cool again. I guess it never was cool. But
Well,
make
we
it
had moments. We had moments.
there's
Like, do you
me.
remember when Nori and Noriega and they did Oye Mi Canto in like the early 2000s, and everybody, like, that
Yeah,
music
there's
video, everyone
Pitbull.
our flag. Like,
I mean, so the Nuevo Pan-Americanismo, I'm like, I think that's what that was about, right?
yeah,
And sort of resituating that America
yeah,
and America is all the way from Canada to Chile, and of course a Puerto Rican that has been, a territory and colonized, and yet the bridge oftentimes between Latin America and the English-speaking Caribbean and the English-speaking
yeah.
US and Canada. He's like perfectly positioned to do that. He's like, look from my vantage point. At one point, someone quoted him, and I don't even know if this is a real quote, honestly, because but I like it, and I think he would say it, which is, English is not my first language, but it's not the first language of the United States either.
Right.
And I was like, okay. So, he shouts out the Tainos as well,
Yes.
obviously slavery and, Afro-Caribbean influences all over that plantation.
Right. Well, and that was also a big thing, even just when you're listing the countries, like to have Haiti's flag included, to
Yes.
have Guyana, to have, Belize, like a lot of these Afro-Indigenous, Afro-Latino spaces that oftentimes get read out of
Mhm.
invocations of Pan-Americanism, or out of conversations like this. And one of the things that I love, I mean, obviously I love, like, there are so many funny memes from Canadians who are like, oh, we're included. This it was
We're
really
at the
funny.
party.
Yeah, yeah, they're like, oh my gosh. But also there are so many, especially in particular, like Afro-Latina creators who were
Mhm.
just kind of getting reactions, and then would say, like, I saw a girl who's like, saw the Belize flag and burst into tears and just was
Mm.
like, they never include us. Like my grandmother would be crying right now. Panama, same thing. I text my friend from Guyana and I said, "Did you see your flag?" And so I just think like those are the things when we talk about, oh, representation matter, like all this stuff, and or representation isn't everything. Obviously, it's not everything, but I do think there's something about um being the feeling of feeling so visible, especially at a time where, you know, it meant a lot for me to see the Haiti flag in particular, because I think Haitians are always fighting for inclusion in Caribbean spaces. And not only that, but are also being targeted by our immigration system right now. And also, like we're seeing at the Winter Olympics, there's two Haitian participants. They painted the horse and Toussaint on it. And then we're told they had to take off Toussaint because it was too political to
Mhm.
have, like they're still being punished for being the largest, most successful slave revolt in history. And um, for it to not be like on an island of its own and
Right.
like incorporated into this
Right.
production just
Right.
matters.
Well, and he does it geographically. So it's a great
Yeah,
reminder that Haiti and the Dominican Republic share Hispaniola,
you're right there
which
together.
is often lost on New Yorkers because they move as far away from each other as possible sometimes
Yeah,
in in this
yeah,
metro north area for a lot of
yeah.
reasons. But yeah, Haitians continue to be vilified, and it's important that it's there. I also think beyond, you and I talk a lot about how representation has its limits, and I actually think we know that that's partly why this backlash and this right wing authoritarian backlash has been so quick and swift and successful in some ways. But he goes beyond that when he starts to like climb up the electric wall. And then there
Exactly.
he's talking about privatization, right? And I think a
In
lot of people in the
particular,
US were like, why?
all day.
They're like, why the fuck is he on like an electric
It's because the
line?
island is still experiencing blackouts because the
Yeah.
electrical system has been privatized. If you don't know what Luma is, please look it up. It's been going on for a long time, but also was exasperated after Maria, where there was a lot of privatization that came into the island. This is, you know, colonization 101 in this age, disaster capitalism. And it has made it very hard for a number of things between housing, gentrification, et cetera, but also just literally having power on the island is a problem. I was in Puerto Rico a few months ago, and rolling blackouts are still happening, even in kind of like heavily populated areas. And so that's why we laugh when somebody's like, "Oh, there's no politics in it." No, they're climbing electrical poles. Like while he's singing a song, right? That's talking about gentrification, that's saying like everybody wants to be Latino, but you know, it's just
And
people are
the
so
song Apagon or Blackout, it's
yeah,
worth
yeah.
going to look at the video because he allowed a young Puerto Rican journalist to do a mini documentary before that talks about the relationship between kind of digital nomads, tourism, privatization, and some of the laws that allow mainland US investors to really profit from Puerto Rico's poverty and poor infrastructure. So go and check that out if you haven't. Apagon is a brilliant song, and the video really,
And
like,
did
if
you
you
see
missed it
Brent?
in the lyrics, it's like hello. Hmm?
Did you see Brent too when he came out right before you started that song and he was carrying the Puerto Rican flag? Did you see what flag it was?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's an independence flag,
Oh.
and it's interesting though. I mean, I don't think that's actually the one that was outlawed. I think the
Well, I don't think this
Independence
one is outlawed, but
Party
I think
flag is,
yeah.
and I saw some people say that's against the law, like in a
No, I don't
supportive
think it's against
way.
the law, but I do think it's symbol. So for folks who don't know, the
Yes.
flag was a lighter shade of blue, which is
Yeah.
the independence flag, sovereignty, whatever, before that shade turned darker in 1952. And so what we're talking about is like the color of the blue on the flag
Yeah.
has a significance.
Totally.
And so yeah, that was,
Yeah.
to me, it
No, I
was like,
mean,
really, yeah. I was
I
like, look at
mean,
what Mark is carrying.
every single, it was one delightful moment after another, and it was one super packed, like,
Yeah.
these were not like hidden messages. I understand if you've
No.
never had a relationship to Puerto Rico, they might be new to you. Luckily, there's tons of primers that are going around on the internet, but believe us when we say pretty much every moment had significance, right? And like all good rappers, like all good hip hop artists or Latin trap artists, he calls back a lot of older
Yeah.
Tiago Calderon. He calls back Daddy Yankee
At the level, yeah, absolutely.
and Willie Colon, and then just to make sure that you know about his
He's like,
LGBTQIA
here's what
plus.
you want.
Here's Ricky Martin, who I want to tell you, he kisses in his Cardo video. So
Yes.
they have a long relationship. He's long said that Ricky Martin suffered from coming out in Puerto Rico. Bad Bunny himself was criticized for painting his nails initially. And so you've got the nail salon, which also
Yes.
appears in the video that Ricky Martin appears in. So there's a
Yes.
whole
And you have
Cardo kind
the
of
shot
thing.
of the two men who are
Yes.
together. You know, you have these things as well.
Yes,
And
the
I
two men
love
dancing together was obviously purpose. Like the camera was
for
told to
sure.
be there.
For sure. For sure. And then yeah, Ricky's appearance was I saw him after just be so emotional about it, and you can't help but getting emotional. And also he's singing a very important song in his little cameo, which is a great song that's talking about like, look at Hawaii, look at what has become of Hawaii, which is we don't want that to become Puerto Rico. So like, you think statehood solves things? Like, look, Hawaii's right there to continue the conversation about gentrification and colonization. And it's just like, again, these little snippets, but very intentional and laced and layered with all these meanings.
And I think the celebrities that he put in Casita in that
Mm,
house are for sure nothing is accidental here, right?
yeah,
Obviously, Cardi B was very important to his success.
yeah,
She introduced him to a US audience very early on and then wasn't included in the Super Bowl that he was. So I feel like inviting her there, it's got nothing to do with Stefan Diggs. It's
yeah,
got to do with a reconciliation about that. He wasn't in control of that show, and she
yes,
wasn't invited. And then you have young Miko, which I
yes.
wish got some more screen time, but
Oh, and I just have to shout out
yes.
here, Jojo, my friend Jojo Josephine Martinez, who has worked for the NFL for years and years and years and years and years, and put on a pre-show with Young Miko before these festivities that wasn't like super public. It was like one of the shows that you get if you're on the ground there. But JoJo's Dominican. She's from Washington Heights, and she talked about how meaningful it was to have a role in kind of the setup and the conversations around the Super Bowl. She got to interview Young Miko and all of this stuff. And I just want to shout out JoJo, who has been holding it down in that organization
Yeah, there's
for
always good people doing
so
like,
long.
yeah,
Yes.
in the trenches.
In the
Young
trenches doing
Miko,
this work. And she's also, JoJo is the reason anytime you see an NFL Pride float, like in New York, JoJo is the person who's always like, we will be out in Washington Heights with these rainbow flags.
yeah. So young Miko, for people who don't know, is a young Puerto Rican rapper who is a lesbian, and I would just like to say, bringing it back to Burn It All Down, was also a member of the Puerto Rican women's national football team,
Yes.
which many people forget existed. So she is multi-talented, obviously, and I think that's who Bad Bunny wanted to bring out instead of Lady Gaga, and was told no. So that would be my
Oh, no, Brenda.
we can talk about Lady Gaga, like respect to her. She's an artist. She's incredibly
Well, she
talented.
means a lot to him, so like.
But I doubt that was his first choice. And I think they wanted an English segment in it. And she has the right kind of politics for Bunny, and is obviously talented at singing live, which a lot of artists that you might choose aren't. And he obviously did not want this to be anything else but a showcase of like live party talent. You know, like there was no like lip syncing.
And also the salsa beat under that song made me like it more.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I did have my one moment of fandom was like, oh, last time Lady Gaga performed at the Super Bowl, the Patriots came back from 28-3. So maybe.
Mm.
Anyways, that was just a moment where I was like,
Well, I
mm,
mean, we can console ourselves that Robert Kraft lost.
yes, that's
Um,
and
and
also again, halfway in on this team anyways. But I was what other part did I want to talk to you about? Oh, okay. So I guess we can talk about that. And so the flags, the very intentional sign on the back of the billboard that said the only thing stronger than hate is love. I'm assuming it said hate because his head was actually in the way, but um and then the football, of course, said together we are all America.
I mean, I think that he could not say ice out.
Yes.
So he did two pointed references to his speech, which was just so close to this
Yes.
that no one would forget. One is the
Yes.
screen with the little boy laying down, who people
Yes.
very much wanted to be, Liam
Yeah. Yes.
Conejo Ramos, and you should know like Conejo's bunny. So there's a lot of that. So there, Liam is like the actor Liam, I think, laying down. Like the fact that he's laying down, which is that pose that we've seen about Liam, the immigrant child from Minneapolis who was detained,
There's
and then
just
when
also a shout out to like something that's very resonant if you're in this community, if you have family, you know that parties go.
sure
Like I
that
do
could
think
be that
I
could
know
be
I think is layered. Like I
it
think
could,
it's absolutely what you're referring to, and I also think that
totally.
maybe people saw that and just was like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, except it was like 8. But like
you know,
like most of the no, I think it could be that too. I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. I mean, he's brilliant and he opens up all of these places to imagine different kinds of worlds. What I found moving was how badly people wanted it to be Liam. Like
yes,
how bad they wanted it to be because they're trying to um reconcile these,
yeah.
moments
Well,
of
I
like
think that
deep
goes back
pain and
right.
happiness.
Right. And I think that goes back to like what we were saying at the beginning, which is like, of course, me and you have had many conversations around representation and surface level things and structural things, etc. But I think that one of the reasons we also talk about sports and about pop culture in different ways is because you can see the anxieties that are projected onto it show how much that symbol means, like in the in the general public, right? So why was it so necessary for everybody to like publicly declare if they were watching this or watching that alternative
Yeah.
bowl thing, right?
Oh,
Why like was it such a
it's so
threat that you had
stupid.
to mount
Yeah. Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
right?
because
Why
he broke the viewership record of Kendrick
exactly.
by like
Exactly.
12 million or 13
Exactly.
million
Or
more.
this idea that like, all of these things baked into it. So like, oh, I want somebody American. Like you can go through a list of past Super Bowl performers who were not American and also, by the way, again, Puerto Rico. But also like the pastors who were like, oh, but it's just so sexual and scandalous.
It
Like
wasn't.
you
It
want to watch
wasn't.
Rock who talks about underage girl. Like I'm so
It
like
wasn't. There was a
so
wedding. There was an
yeah,
actual
a
wedding.
literal wedding. And somebody said it's the most pro-marriage
Yeah.
actually because there's a literal wedding
There's a
on this.
literal wedding.
But yeah, I think about that, and that kind of harkens back to what we were talking about is the investment in either admonishing or loving this, the investment in like declaring, like you already knew that Trump was going to tweet some nonsense, right? Like
Oh,
everybody
I feel
knew
like he was asleep and that was pre-planned
it was
because
had
it
to be.
wasn't it wasn't even like it wasn't even sexual. Parea sola, which is actually like about like leaving
Yeah,
women alone in clubs.
let them dance by themselves.
That's what and so I mean, I
Like
I
that
don't know.
Yes, but then also like the conundrum that people put themselves in, like you've declared you're not watching it, so now you can't comment on how it was because you weren't supposed to be watching it, was also very amusing to me, watching people like pencil themselves into
I know. They're like, I've heard from sources. Sources
right.
tell me this
Right.
is maybe one of the worst halftime shows. I was surprised by that because I was like, I wonder what Trump's people think is the worst. Like I was,
Well, you know,
I
they
could have.
Kendrick rapped in English last year and they still said they couldn't understand him. You know, when
They
Beyonce did
can't because their brains can't keep
when
up.
Beyonce did Super Bowl and turned black, everybody had a conniption because they realized like she was black. And like this is not actually a new grievance. It's just like what is it going to be this year, right? Somebody, who was it? Somebody racist, Laura Loomer probably, who was like, it wasn't straight up was like, it's not white enough for me. Like, there's no white people. And somebody said, oh, I saved this tweet just for you, Brenda. she said it wasn't what there was no white people on stage. Da, 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 da. And somebody said, um, a New York Italian being mistaken for Puerto Rican, like this is really representation because of Gaga. They were like, oh, this is real. This is real.
I mean, the I'll just say, like, one thing I appreciated was the kind of conversations it sparked, like, and the discourse, right? Like,
Yeah.
so on the one hand, like, you're right, the investment in saying you're pro or against this show is like both aggravating and telling about everything. But first, as someone who taught my first class on Bad Bunny in 2020, I will
Mhm.
say, I love being on this bandwagon. I love hearing everyone's takes, your take, everyone on Blue Sky, people who write about it are excited about it. It's really been a joyful experience. And like I was tweeting, no, texting, I don't so I was texting with friend of the show, Jermaine Scott, and I just want to say I appreciate everyone's texting me during this and sort of saying like, aren't you excited? And it makes me feel so proud to be associated with Bad Bunny. And it was in a group with someone who really didn't have much experience or
Mhm.
with kind of Spanish speaking culture. And Jermaine, who's of Jamaican descent and does not speak Spanish, said, listen, what that was to me was like, here is a party and you are all invited. And if you choose not to come to this party, so be it. And so the audience was so clearly not the ones not for the haters, but was also incredibly open and inclusive for those that like are not like actively racist. So
Right.
that was his sort of take
Absolutely.
as a non-fan, which I
I think that
appreciated.
that's absolutely right. And I think that was also like the intentionality around the set design also does storytelling without you needing to understand. Like if you
True.
don't know the lyrics, if
Yes.
you don't know the songs, if you don't
Yes.
know the background, you can understand a lot through the set design, through how he's moving through the space, through the flags. Like it was layered. Like if you go to a show of his, right, a lot of times it's like a very pared down set. He's walking back and forth. Occasionally he's flying on something. He's definitely taking his shoes off. It's wild. These are things, but like that's not going to translate, right? He didn't just show up and be like, I'm going to pace the stage and then like do
Right.
this. Like he intentionally like told stories through other ways, which I think
Yes.
is absolutely an invitation into it. I saw so many people, like you said, unfamiliar, who was like, I felt that. Like I didn't need to understand. And I think that's very true. I think normalizing not necessarily having communication catered towards you. B, that there are multiple ways to understand and interact and like get a kind of deeper feeling through things. And this is also like what building community looks like in general. It's like
Yes.
you don't need to know exactly your context, exactly all the intricacies. Like I don't necessarily need to know all of the intricacies of Diwali celebrations to know that I
Yes.
stand by my neighbors when they are celebrating. I've been welcomed into those celebrations and I will stand up for them when people are saying, "Oh, there's too many immigrants in this area,
Mm-hmm.
doing their celebrations." And I'm going to do that, right? And that is how we share cultures in a non-appropriative, culture vulture-y, way, like Bad Bunny is also warning about, right?
Yeah.
And in a non-extractive way, I should
Yeah.
say.
I
I
mean, that's a
think like that.
beautiful way to put it. I think
Yeah,
that's absolutely right. And I'm just so impressed that he's done all of this. Like, it's
yes,
so fucking impressive, right?
absolutely.
Because he has to deal with like really machista, homophobic Latin trap artists
Hmm.
themselves. He has to
Hmm.
deal with the, clanchella like happening, you know what I mean? Whatever that is. He has to, he has to deal with like people who don't like hip hop at all, people that don't like salsa at all, people that don't like cereal. You know what I mean? It's just like he's become, and so it's just very
People who
impressive.
want him to go grab the mic and just be like, fuck ice.
Yeah.
Like, and that be the whole show. Shout out to the people passing out fuck ice towels, though.
Yes.
Shout out to,
Absolutely.
and
And
also, I
yes.
think it's important to recognize that I think it is meaningful for him to understand that his fan base is part of this, larger community, because citizenship is not, ICE is not at his door, like could not be, right? And yet he understands that it harms all of us when citizenship is policed in the manner that it is being policed. Like, this is something that I'm teaching early America right now,
Yeah.
right? And so we're in the time period where there's free states and there's slave states. And one of the things that we're watching is how, like, free Black folks have their rights eroded more and more and more and more under the guise of concern over, like, how they're maintaining the system of slavery. And whenever systems like that are questioned and they become more entrenched, it's very clear that freedom remains elusive to everybody if it continues to be confined in this way. And this is what's happening with citizenship questions. Like, it's
Hmm.
not enough to just be like, oh, this is around people who are undocumented. No, because it's about people who are naturalized green card holders. It's about people from all, like, we know
It's
that
about
the
Renee
line,
Good. It's
yeah,
about
the
Alex Preddy.
line is
It's
moving and
everybody.
moving and moving. And they're constantly talking about birthright citizenship. They're talking about repelling, like this is a conversation for everybody that impacts everybody. It doesn't mean it's felt the same, but what it means is, like, it requires everybody to stop sitting on the sidelines thinking that they're in this kind of safety bubble, because what is safety under fascism, really? Um, and so I just think, like, that was important. And the whole thing, also, then, just period, it was nice to have some joy. It was
Yeah.
nice to just be like,
He's
I'm
beautiful
here.
artist. He's so
It's
talented. The
great.
songs are so
The
fucking
songs that
good.
he put in, so many songs, like,
Yes.
more than I thought he was going to be able to fit in. Um,
Great.
and like you said, if you think about the evolution, like, I just never thought we'd see this.
I mean, it's
Um,
fantastic. And he's so fucking good. So if you haven't been on the bandwagon, welcome to the bandwagon. He made it clear you are welcome on that bandwagon, and he wants you, to come along for the ride. More people watched him than the game itself. I couldn't be happier about that. I think it's amazing to have Kendrick set a record and then to have Bunny. And I think we can all agree that if we really want the right to lose their mind next year, we get K-pop.
oh,
And so
that's what
in
we said.
Korean,
In
in Korean,
Korean.
please.
In Korean. Lastly, I want to put some resources in the show notes. Shout out to our friends, Perry Johnson and Courtney Cox over at Sound of Victory. They've been working and analyzing Super Bowl halftime shows for years. This one is no exception. They have some great content over on their Instagram, historicizing all of this. Also, shout out to Coco Jones, who did a Whitney replica white thing, singing Lift Every Voice, and sang with my friend Adam Blackstone's arrangement. It was gorgeous rendition of the Black National Anthem. Also, I will put in the links. There's a great collection of resources from scholars who are working on Puerto Rico, working on Bomba y Plena, working on reggaeton, working on a lot of these touchstones if you want to read their work and support it. And there's also a really great post that says if this is your first foray into understanding anything about Puerto Rico, anything about the island, that there's other great ways to continue to lend support to the island especially. And so there's some links to organizations that are doing work around gentrification, that are doing work around domestic violence on the island, that are doing work around that privatization of the island, particularly against Luma, that are doing work politically. And all of these organizations are great to follow, great to look at. The scholarship is really good, especially like a lot of scholars have been doing great work on indigeneity and Blackness and race making in Puerto Rico. Shout out to my colleague, Monica Jimenez, whose book is out now around these issues, and so many other people. So let this be your invitation to the party. Please stay a while. And if you enjoyed the halftime show, Brenda, of course, has been telling you all to listen to Bad Bunny's music for years and years and years and years and years. And we want to show some love to the resources that we talked about as well. So this was just our Monday morning hangover of the Super Bowl. That's what we were watching for. You know, the game's the game. And
the game.
culture wars are the culture wars. But for 15 minutes, ooh, what fun we had.
It sure was.
That's all from us at Burn It All Down. And as always, burn on, not out. And we will see you. And we will see you soon, flamethrowers. It's still a Monday morning.